Welcome to the story of Max and Sally and the Phenomenal Phone by Milos Matarek and Adolf Born. I'm Andy, and this is the Book and Puppet Company's Story Hour. And today we're going to be reading about these people. And you can see that Max, here's Max and Sally, Max is holding in his hand, this is an old-fashioned telephone. It's a phone, a phenomenal phone. Max and Sally and the phenomenal phone. How Max and Sally got hold of the phenomenal phone. Max Blair and Sally Chase were third graders in room 301. They lived in the same apartment building and walked to school together. Mrs. Pond and her dog Jonathan lived there too. And so did Mrs. Shallot with Mitzi, her cat. And when Mrs. Pond and Jonathan and Mrs. Shallot and Mitzi ran into each other in the hall, was there a ruckus? Mitzi sputtered like a hamster. Jonathan turned into a tiger. Mrs. Shallot squeaked. Don't worry, Mitzi. Mrs. Pond yelled. Quiet, Jonathan, while the other tenants peeped through the door cracks to see what in the world was going on. Considering this, would you blame Sally if she sometimes teased Jonathan with her little jingle? Hello there, old Mr. Ruff. Of your noise I've had enough. Wouldn't it drive you really bats if there were a million cats? That annoyed Jonathan. But otherwise he and Max and Sally were friends. And occasionally in the morning he would run off from Mrs. Pond to walk with them to school. Mrs. Pond did not appreciate his jaunts at all. She would run after him shouting, Jonathan, come home! Jonathan, come home! I see that Dahlia has come. Hi, Dahlia. We're reading Max and Sally and the Phenomenal Phone, and we just found out that Jonathan, the dog, sometimes runs away to go to school with Max and Sally. But catching Jonathan wasn't easy. Jonathan was a dog, and any dog can run faster than any Mrs. Pond. And yet, all this running wasn't completely silly. Max and Sally got to school on time, and Mrs. Pond got some fresh air, which is very healthy. One day, Max and Sally had said goodbye to Jonathan in front of the school and sat down at their desks. Mrs. McGee, their teacher, walked in and said, Children, let's see now how you prepared for today's science class. She called on Max to tell her about rabbits. But about rabbits, Max knew next to nothing. The only rabbits he knew were Bugs Bunny and Peter. So he just kept repeating like a broken record. The wild rabbit lives in the woods. He lives in the woods. He lives in the woods. Till the teacher stopped him and said, Listen, Max, even babies know that rabbits don't live in libraries or in ice cream parlors. Instead, why don't you tell us what rabbits feed on, how many teeth they have, things like that. But Max had no idea whatsoever about rabbits' teeth. So Miss McGee said, That's enough, Max. Now sit down, and tomorrow I'll call on you again, and you'd better shape up, or else. And you see, here's all the things that Max does know about. It's like everything Max knows, and there's a big rabbit-shaped hole in the middle of his knowledge. So he doesn't know anything about rabbits. When school was over and everyone was going home, Max said to Sally, "Lucky you, you can play now with Jonathan while I sit at home boning up on rabbits. It's not fair." He had hardly finished that sentence when he noticed a strange character crawling in the grass on all fours. Sally saw him too and said to Max, "That man's pretending to be a dog. Just look at him." But Max shook his head and said, "Sally, you're really nuts. Why should an old guy like that pretend to be a dog? I bet he must have lost his glasses." That was it, all right. The man had lost his glasses and was lost without them. It's difficult to look for glasses, you know, without wearing them in the first place. Luckily, Max was wearing his, and he soon found the man's glasses. And the old gentleman, he found the man's glasses, and the old gentleman, what's that? He showed, this book is silly? Oh, you're on very, very hilly roads right now?
Because tornadoes don't like this.
Oh.
They only like flat.
I'm sorry.
They only like flat.
I know flat is better than hilly.
Yeah.
Especially if you're in a car.
Yeah, I'm in a car.
Dahlia's in a car. She's riding in a car.
No, I'm not running.
You're not riding in a car?
I am riding on the car. I live in Pennsylvania.
In Pennsylvania. Okay, not Rhode Island. So, back to our story. They were looking for glasses, and luckily Max was wearing his. And so he soon found the old man's glasses. See, there's Max, and he found the old man's glasses. Look, this worm is looking through these glasses. And the old gentleman was so very pleased that he told them, "Listen, children, since you've been so kind, look what I've got for you."
Mr. Andy.
Yes?
Well, black.
What's that?
Went all black.
It went all black?
Uh-huh.
You mean you can't see me?
No, I can't see you.
But I can see you.
Yeah, but I can't see you.
Okay, well, you just have to listen to the story. I mean, you could probably restart your phone.
I don't have a phone.
Well, it's showing up okay on my computer and on the Facebook, so I think that our computer's working.
No,
Okay, well, just listen to the story because actually this story has a lot of words, and the words are more important than the pictures. Though they're very good pictures too. Okay,
Yeah.
so we'll just pretend you're listening to an audiobook, okay? Okay. So remember what was happening is an old man lost his glasses, and Max and Sally were looking for his glasses, and they found his glasses. And the old gentleman was so very pleased that he told them, yes?
Mr. Andy.
All right, I'm going to keep reading because other kids are listening too. The old gentleman was so very pleased that he told them, "Listen, children, since you've been so kind, look what I've got for you." And beaming at both of them, he took out of his pocket an old telephone receiver and gave it to Sally. That's a very old kind of phone, just the end of the phone. Sally, somewhat puzzled, said, Well, that's really nice of you, sir. Thanks a lot, sir, but could you tell us what it's for? It's not good for calling anyone, that's for sure. She was about to give the receiver back to the man, but there was no man there to give it back to. Now it's me who's nuts, thought Max. Where is he? The man disappeared magically. Oh no. Where is the man? This is crazy, if you ask me. Who cares, said Sally. Better help me figure out what to do with half a phone. For starters, laughed Max, why don't you just say, hello there, old Mr. Ruff. Sally was laughing too, and said, jokingly, into the receiver, wouldn't it drive you really bats if there were 1,000,000 cats? And after she had said it, the receiver answered, did you say 1,000,000? Suit yourself. Max and Sally stared, stunned, as unbelievable scores of cats appeared around them. Tomcats and kittens, white, black, and dapple gray. Toms sitting on the road, cats in treetops, kittens on the rooftops, mewing till everyone's ears buzz. Can you mew? Mew, 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 mew. Can you mew, Dahlia? Mew, 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 mew. See, she wished for 1,000,000 cats. Mew! Mew, 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 meow. Did you ever see so many cats?
What?
Did you ever see so many cats?
Well, I want to.
Meow!
We'll be back.
That's a lot of cats. Sally pulled herself together first and said, Max, can you believe all these cats? The phone did this, right? Right, said Max. But what now? What are we supposed to do with all of these cats? I can't take them home. My parents wouldn't let me in. Do you realize how many 1,000,000 cats is? And Sally got a bright idea, tapped her forehead, and called into the receiver, hello there, we have no idea what to do with so many cats, so could you please take them back? And the receiver answered, well, of course, if you wish. And then and there was not a single cat to be seen, only a tomcat or even a kitten. And Max said, wow, this thing really works. That's fantastic. Do you realize what it means? No, I don't, said Sally, but I agree with you. It's fantastic, all right. Now, let's go home. Jonathan was sitting on the windowsill, welcoming them from afar with his barking. Ow, 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 ow. Poor Jonathan, said Sally. That Mrs. Pond has locked him up again. But Max only laughed and said, he'll be down in a jiffy if you want him to. And he took the receiver and asked, can Jonathan turn into a bird for a while? Why not? The voice in the receiver said. If you want him to be a bird, he'll be a bird. Jonathan, now standing on the window sill, grew wings, and Max below shouted, what are you waiting for? Start flying. And Jonathan flapped his wings and slowly floated down, landing right in front of Sally. Poor Jonathan looked quite peculiar. The wings didn't suit him at all. Max turned up his nose. "Listen, Sally," he said, "we can't play with such an awful-looking creature, really." See, Jonathan looks pretty weird as a bird. The regular birds are like looking at him and But Sally said, "Don't let it worry you, Max. You've got to study. Remember the rabbits? You'll be called on tomorrow." Max just laughed. "I've got an idea." "Rabbits, you said. Why couldn't the three of us play with rabbits right now?" And he said into the receiver, "We've got this terrible urge to become rabbits. Could we please?" "I don't see why not," answered the receiver. "You want to be rabbits? Go right ahead and be rabbits!" And no sooner said than done. Max, Sally, and Jonathan became rabbits! And they hopped into the woods. There they met an old rabbit with gray whiskers, and when they told him who they really were, he gathered many of his friends together, and they all played catch the whole afternoon, and also talked about rabbit life, and counted their teeth and hair. So, the next day, when the teacher called on Max, he told her not only how many top teeth and how many bottom teeth rabbits have, but also how many hairs they have on their bellies and how many on their backs, and then spoke for almost an hour about how many children they have and how the baby rabbits play and what they like to eat for lunch and what for dinner and what time they go to sleep and when they get up again. Miss McGee couldn't believe her eyes and said to herself, "Could it be that a third grader would know more about rabbits than I do?" And she gave Max a giant A+, and Max sat down smiling, and Sally whispered to him, "Wow, that phone is really phenomenal!" And Max nodded. "You said it, and you ain't seen nothing yet. We'll have fun with it, that's for sure." Now comes how Max and Sally convinced Mrs. Pond that she had the best dog in the world. So this is the second story of Max and Sally and the phenomenal phone. I think I better take the jacket off. One day, as Max and Sally were leaving for school, Jonathan saw them. And zip, he ran away from Mrs. Pond and followed his friends. He noticed that Max and Sally had lunch boxes, but no books. And he kept shaking his head, thinking, "That doesn't make any sense. Why only lunch boxes?" Till Sally told him, "Listen, Jonathan, today we don't need books because there's no school today. We're going on a field trip to Moose Lake. Do you understand what I'm saying?" Jonathan began to whine. Why? And Max said, "Listen, Sally, that dog's whining for real. I've got a feeling he'd like to join us. Know what I mean?" But Sally said, "Miss McGee couldn't let a dog come with us, and come to think of it, Mrs. Pond wouldn't like it either. Just look, there she is, running after Jonathan already." And in fact, Mrs. Pond was running as fast as she could, yelling, "Jonathan, come home this very minute." But that very minute, Max got an idea and said to Sally, "Now tell me, why do we have this phenomenal phone if we don't use it? We'll change Jonathan into a boy, and that will do it." And right away, he said into the receiver, "Please, we need to have Jonathan looking like a boy carrying a lunchbox." So, when Mrs. Pond finally arrived, what did she see? Max and Sally and a boy with big ears sticking out, carrying a lunchbox. See? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He turned into a boy. Dahlia, would you like your dogs to turn into a boy?
No. It's pretend stuff.
Pretend?
Yeah. The book isn't pretend.
I don't know about that. And she, Mrs. Pond, wondered why Jonathan wasn't around, saying, I thought he was with you." But Sally only shrugged her shoulders and said, "He was here just a minute ago, Mrs. Pond." And that was nothing but the truth, so Sally wasn't really lying at all.
Yes, it's just pretend.
Mrs. Pond went home, grumbling to herself, "Just you wait, Jonathan. You'll get it when you come back." But Jonathan went wild with joy at being rid of Mrs. Pond for a while. He was so happy he kept running and jumping around Max and Sally. Sally only shook her head. I don't know. Somehow this doesn't look right to me. That dog looks like a perfectly normal kid with a lunchbox, but he's still acting like a dog." Max scratched his head and sighed. "You're right, Sally. You're right. I've got the same feeling. This won't turn out." And sure enough, when they reached the bus, and Sally asked the teacher if their friend Jonathan Terrier could come with them, Jonathan spoiled everything. He whined, "Ow!" and jumped up and gave the teacher a big lick on her cheek. Did you ever see a boy lick a teacher on their cheek? And on her nose. And he even started to bark. "Ow, ow, 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 ow." And Mrs. McGee thought, what a bizarre child. A real troublemaker, this one. And they want me to take him with us on a trip? Well, that's really all I need. He'll make a fuss and keep behaving like a dog, as if it were not enough already that Ralph's coming along, that naughty boy. So she said, "I'm sorry, but there really isn't a seat left on the bus. So let's go, children. Let's go now." And they left. But wasn't Jonathan Max and Sally's friend? And to be someone's friend, that's no small potatoes. Would a friend leave his friends just like that? Jonathan certainly wouldn't. So he ran along after the bus. Oh, dust flying behind him, right down the highway, zooming around the curves, and through the back windows, the kids waved at him and held their thumbs up. Look at that. This is a very fast dog boy. He's running as fast as the bus to keep up with the bus. There's the kids in the bus. Look, there's some cows too. When the bus finally stopped at Moose Lake, not only Max and Sally, but all the third graders cheered because Jonathan had made it! He had run that long way just to spend the day with his friends. And Mrs. McGee said to herself, "This Jonathan is really a strange kid, and his manners leave a lot to be desired, but there definitely is something good in him. In fact, there is something good in everybody. Then it dawned on her that in those lunch boxes there was something good too. So she clapped her hands and said, "Now, children, why don't you get your lunch and eat the treats your mothers have packed for you?" And all the kids dove into their desserts. All kinds of pies and cakes. Here, you can have some cake and some pie. And apple turnovers. Only poor Sally couldn't find a thing in her lunchbox, even though her mom had baked a real treat for her and had packed a large slice of strawberry pie. Oh no! Where's her strawberry pie? Oh no! Sally was so unhappy that she said to Miss McGee, "Someone must have taken a slice of strawberry pie out of my lunchbox and didn't leave even a tiny bit for me, not even a crumb." And the teacher said, "Who would do something like that? Raise your hand, whoever did it." But nobody raised a hand, and all of them said, "What's going to happen now? There's a thief here, and we don't know who it is." But for Jonathan, this was no big deal. On the contrary, it was a trifle, since it just so happened he was an expert in these matters. Well, you know, a dog is a dog. He sniffed here and snuffled there. Can you sniff and snuffle? And in no time was carrying a lunchbox to Miss McGee. Oh, he sniffed a lunchbox.
We have to get on the bus.
Okay, when Miss McGee opened the lunchbox, there was a slice of strawberry pie staring right at her, and the lunchbox had Ralph's name on it. Well, wouldn't you know it? It's Ralph's. That boy again. Shame on you, Ralph. I don't even want to look at you. She wanted to thank Jonathan in front of all the children, but Jonathan was busy just then, for he had spotted a cat in a tree, and zoom off he went. You know, a dog is a dog, and when a dog spots a cat, there's no stopping him. And the teacher said to herself, "Well, I'll be. He's such a bright boy, detects a thief in no time, but a moment later he behaves like a fool." She kept shaking her head, quite puzzled. There's Jonathan, the dog boy, climbing into a tree, and the cat looks very concerned. The birds are like, "Oh, what's going on here?" Now, Ralph wasn't the least bit embarrassed, and instead of being ashamed of what he had done, he was showing off, pretending to be a champion diver standing on the edge of the lake, bragging, "Just watch this jump. You haven't seen anything like it before. 1, 2, 3. And as soon as he had jumped in, oh look, there he went in the water, splash! He began bobbing up and down, sputtering and screaming, "Help! Help!" It was awful. The kids were screaming, "Ralph is drowning! Please help! Please, he's drowning!" The teacher was clutching her head. "That's all I need. Oh, that Ralph again. Goodness, what will the parents say?" But Jonathan just hopped into the water and pulled Ralph out right away. Look, these frogs think it's pretty interesting, and this fish too. And Miss McGee sighed with relief and made the class stand together as if for a picture, and asked Jonathan not to run off chasing cats again. And then she said, "We ought to express our gratitude to Jonathan Terrier for his heroic act of bravery and courage." But Jonathan wasn't used to such pomp, and didn't know what to do with himself, and so he began to scratch with his foot behind his ears as if he had fleas, and kept scratching himself faster and faster all the time. Look, he's got his foot behind his ear scratching. The teacher is so surprised. The teacher was aghast. She stiffened and gasped. "That's more than I can possibly tolerate. Such an intelligent boy and devoted friend behaving in this absolutely horrid manner." But Max said, "Excuse me, we've got to tell you, well, actually, how should I put it? Jonathan isn't a boy at all." "Really?" "He is a dog." And Sally said, "It's our friend Jonathan the dog. And because we like him a lot, we wanted to take him with us on the trip." And Max said something into the phenomenal phone. And no sooner said than done. Jonathan turned into a dog again. All the kids just stared, flabbergasted, but Miss McGee immediately offered Jonathan a ham and cheese sandwich and said, "Forgive me, Jonathan, if I judged you too harshly." And on the way back, Jonathan traveled in comfort like a prince, and the whole class walked him home. And when Mrs. Pond began scolding him for being all wet and saying that a well-bred dog ought to lie on the sofa at home and not run around all day long, Miss McGee asked her if she wasn't by any chance mistaking the dog for a pillow. "A pillow can lie on a sofa forever, and it won't mind it a bit," she said. "But a dog is a dog, and your Jonathan is without a doubt the best dog in the whole world, as I discovered right off." Well, Mrs. Pond felt a little ashamed and said, "All right, I won't lock Jonathan up any more. And whenever he wants to play with Max and Sally, I'll always let him." And Jonathan began barking happily. "Woof, woof, woof, woof." You want to bark? "Woof, woof, 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 woof." And Max and Sally started singing along, and all the children clapped their hands, and even Mrs. Pond and Mrs. McGee cheered. Yay! Yay! And whatever happened to be passing by had to say, "By golly, I haven't heard that much joy in a long time." I guess these birds did say that. And whoever happened to be passing by said it. "I haven't heard that much joy in a long time." And that is the end of the first and the second story of Max and Sally and the Phenomenal Phone. And there's more, but we're not going to read it right now. But we'll have to read it later, because it's very good. Max and Sally and the Phenomenal Phone by Milos Maturek and Adolf Bord, and translated and published by Dagmar Hermann. Bye, everybody. Bye.